Hello everyone, how are you today? Good? Alright, so we are from the last group. In this occasion, we would like to present about the concept of style in the short story entitled A Clean, Well-Lighted Place by Ernest Hemingway. First of all, let us introduce ourselves. I am Saka.
I am Prima.
And I'm Dian.
Alright, so without any further ado, let us begin this presentation. So, in these sections, we would like to talk about the word choice in the story in the terms of whether the author used simple or complex words, and then concrete or abstract, and last but not least, the denotation and connotation. First, I would like to talk about simple and complex words. So, a simple word is a word that can have one or more syllables. Meanwhile, a complex word is a word made up of two or more morphemes. Hemingway used simple types of words to facilitate the reader to understand the whole story. Even the author often used words that consist of one syllables. So in reading this story, we will notice that the author has omitted some of the text in the dialogue. This is called omissions, or the Iceberg Theory, that characterize every short story written by Hemingway. Hemingway's Iceberg Theory is a writing style where only the tip of the story is visible on the page, while the rest is left unsaid underwater. So he only focused on the minimalistic style, such as elements that are only visible on the surface, rather than the theme and also the meaning that underlies the story. Well, let us take an example. So, the story entitled A Clean, Well-Lighted Place tells nothing more than an old man drinking in a cafe at late night. However, with a reference to Hemingway omission theory, the story is actually about what brings the old man to the cafe to drink and the reason behind the old man's desire to seek the light. And then next, about the abstract and concrete words. So, abstract words refers to intangible qualities, idea, and concepts. So, this word indicate things we know only through our intellectual. So, usually in abstract words, we have to think deeper to understand about the true meaning behind the words. So, you have to optimize your intellectual ability. Meanwhile, concrete words refers to tangible qualities or characteristics and things we know through our sense. This story is emphasized on the use of concrete language rather than the abstract of each word chosen to show the form of describing the situations and also the atmosphere. So it will also reverse to the depictions of characteristic by each character, which is very concrete describes. So the readers will also realize that all the things with the help of the sense, because all of the word contained in this story invites the reader to make their sense work simultaneously. Like in the sentence, it was late and everyone had left the cafe except the old man who sat in the shadow of the leaves of the tree made against the electric light. So this sentence can be found in the very first sentence of the story. So it concretely describes how the situation and also how the atmosphere there by using our sense to understand it. And the last is about connotation and denotation. So connotations is the use of a word that suggests a different association than its literal meaning, which is known as denotation. So denotation is the literal meaning of the word. So the word used in the story tend to characterize the nature of connotation because the entire content of the story is a metaphor of what is actually experienced by the author. Behind what is written in the story, there is actually another meaning that the author wants to convey. So the metaphor that underlies the whole story is the word depth, which is implicitly means someone who lives in silence and darkness.
Alright, so today I will present about the sentence structures. So in Star Story with the title A Clean, Well-Lighted Place, use a short sentence. In this story, the writer used a minimalist style where only elements of the story and dictions are the most essential. So this short story use a drinking sentence in completing each sections. So the writer also use simple dictions such as words that have one syllable. The author only use simple sentence as opposed to complex the sentence. So Hemingway is someone who specializes in simple declarative sentence. And Hemingway always choose the smallest amount of praise detail so that the reader can get a feel for the whole story. So important information in Hemingway's short story can usually be found between the lines and not clearly explained because he wants the reader to feel something beyond their comprehension. There is a very figurative language in short stories, so there are no metaphors or parables, and the characters and plot are minimized. So the author puts complicated moments and assumptions into half phrases and use sentence fragments to summarize each person's existential search, as in the phrase, with all those who do not want to get to bed, with all those who need a light for the night.
Okay, next we're gonna talk about the detail. So the details here tells about the details of the writing used by the author. Does the writer go into great depth, or does the writer use summary narrative or space prose? In the story A Clean, Well-Lighted Place, the writer used phrase and tight words in describing the details of the story. It can be seen from the sentences in the story and the dialogues, which are made briefly, cleanly, and simply by the author. Regarding how the depth of this story is written by the author, the narration part of the story is written in a great detail and is well described. The readers can understand well what is explained and happened in the story, and also they can understand how the setting of place, time, and atmosphere in the story. And for the characterization part of the characters, the writer explained it through the dialogues. Like when two waiters talk about the old man, from there the reader can see the character of the old man. Apart from that, a conversation between two waiters, the young waiter and the other one is old waiter, show how they behave towards the way they see someone from their point of view was evident in their dialogue. Overall, the writer invites reader to feel the depth of the story with their own understanding, because the whole story has a deeper meaning when traced and thought about than just a plain reading.
So in this occasion, I would like to explain about how the author write every dialogue to reveal the characteristics of every character in the story. The dialogue in the story is very clear in describing the characteristics of each character. There are three characters who plays main role in the story. The first is the old man who is deaf and the two waiters, each old and young. So the deaf old man is the author's descriptions of what he experienced in his life, namely the deep loneliness that involved his days. However, it is also vivid that the old waiters play important role as a spokespersons for the author in expressing what is experienced in real life into the story. Although there were disagreements between the young and the old waiter regarding to the deaf old man, but the older still defend him by saying that the old man was clean and dignified even when he was completely drunk. This was because he knew very well what the old man was going through. In more detail, the different characteristics between the young and the old waiter can be found in the situations where the young waiters wanted the old man to leave the cafe immediately because he wanted to go home to bed with his wife. But the older waiter denied it because he thought that the light and the bright cafe can be a place where the old man to escape from his despair. The bright from the light in the cave could endure the dark life of the old man at least for temporary until the daylight appeared. So from the dialogue, the depictions of attitude of the two waiters was very obvious. Although at the beginning of the story, two of them seemed cynical to the old man, but contradiction began to happen when the young waiter said that he didn't want to grow old because old people were bad. The old waiter defended the old man by saying that he was clean and dignity. Even he was drunk, he didn't spill any brandy, and he knew how it feels like when come back home greeted by solitude of the darkest side of life and had to wait for the light to appear until the end of the night. As an inference, the characteristics of young waiters described by the author as impatience. He even has the heart to dissipate the old man away because of his own purpose. And the opposite character is described to the old waiters who plays an important role of discharging the author's expressions into the story. He kept defending the old man because he also felt the same loneliness when he got home to his bed. He knew it was insomnia that made him tend to be awake until the daylight. Therefore, this character is described as being tolerant and also wise in sensing someone's situations.
Alright, so for the next, I will explain about the dialogue, visions, and voice. So for the visions is in the literature is the author's point of view in saying the word differently and building a new perspective on the word to build a new perspective on the word, new knowledge, and inspirations. So visions exist because of voice. So voice in literature can be felt, heard, and pronounced with the power of word. Voice is the message, value, and soul and breath content in the story. So for vision and voice in this story is tell about the author, what the author wants to convey in this story, and he wants to what he experienced in his real life. So Hemingway was a severe insomniac and always feeling lonely because he was often alone. So this is what makes him want to draw his feelings into the form of a literary work or his short story. So the short story entitled A Clean Well-Lighted Place is a whole description of the worst condition has ever felt by someone. So where it seemed only dark and silent. Fear has angel feet all the feelings on the deaf old man and old servant in the story. So they prefer to spend the night under the light of a cafe that can brighten up the scenes of darkness that haunts the two characters. Hence, all these feelings are what the author wants to voice. That in life, the worst feeling that human can experience is when they no longer hear the love and no longer see the light, no longer feel the pleasure. So what is heard is only silent, what is seen is only dark, and what is felt is only fear.
Okay, now we move to the literary techniques in this story. So, what is literary techniques? The literary techniques describe the literary techniques used by the writers to beautify their stories. So, in this story, there are 4 literary techniques used by the author. The first one is metaphor. According to Christianity 2015, a metaphor is a writer or speaker's way of saying something that leads to another meaning. Such as in this story, the sentence is, "In the daytime, the street was dusty, but at night, the dew settled. The dust and the old man liked to sit late because he was deaf, and now at night, it was quiet, and he felt the difference." The word deaf in this story refers to the condition of the old man, where he is already on the darker side of his life, like when he had attempted suicide. He cannot feel the chaos of the world, so he feels always alone, isolated, and lonely until he finds the light, which is refers to light of a clean copy. The second one is repetition. Repetition is the way a writer or speaker writes the words or phrases. They are repeated over and over with the aim of beautifying literary works. For example, in the story, the first sentence, "It was late and everyone had left the cafe except an old man who sat in the shadow, the leaves of the tree met against the electric light." The second sentence, "They sat together at a table that was close against the wall near the door of the cafe and looked at the terrace where the tables were all empty, except where the old man sat in the shadow of the leaves of the tree that moved slightly in the wind." So, from those sentences, we can underline the sentence "sat in the shadow the leaves of the tree." This is an example of repetition, where the sentence shows the same rhyme and serves to beautify the story. We can assume that the authors fell in love with the beauty of the shadows of the leaves from the trees. The third one is symbols. The first symbol is the cave. The cave represents an escape from despair for the old man. It also means a state or situation that gives the old man serenity. This shows that the cave is used as a refuge for anyone who feels despair in their life. They can control their anxiety and forget about their problems in their life for a while. The second symbol is darkness. The darkness in this short story represents the feeling of the old man and his anxiety over the old problems and difficulties he has experienced. And the last symbol is a clean, well-lighted place. As the title of this story is "A Clean, Well-Lighted Place," a clean represents the comfort and security that the old man feels when he is in the cave. And about the well-lighted place, it is representing a feeling of a calm, feeling safe, and comfort being away from the darkness. The last literary technique is imagery. Example of imagery can be seen from this sentence. A girl and a soldier went by in the street. The street light shone on the breast number of his collar. The girl wore no head covering and hurried beside him. The sentence above shows the visual imagery and feeling. The sentence above shows that when the old man saw a girl and a male soldier passing by, it felt that the soldier man who represented someone who was strong and trained will be able to protect the girl, so that the old man felt security for the girl from what he saw from the book.
Okay, so that's all from our presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.